Hello, I'm Reverend Ruth Van Lillian. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Emerald Coast. We are a covenantal community founded on loving kindness and a common devotion to our free faith. We recognize all the earth as sacred ground, and we welcome each other into this virtual space. We especially welcome those visiting with us today. We are so glad you're here. We invite you to check out our website and our Facebook page to learn more about us. We hope to touch hearts, teach minds, challenge spirits, and comfort souls. May you find refreshment and restoration in our service today.
By Florence Caplow. As we kindle this flame, we honor and remember those who have passed into the mystery. Their brightness lives on in our vision. Their courage lives on in our commitments. And their love continues to bless the world through us.
Again, I have a story for you today called The Perfect Thanksgiving. Think back to all of your Thanksgivings. When I think back in my house, we always used the fancy dishes. We got out the lace tablecloth. We sat in the dining room when we never did otherwise. We got out the real silver, not the stainless steel, and the crystal. The turkey always was brought in to the table on a great big platter that was only used at Thanksgiving, no other time. But as a teacher, if I mentioned things like that to my kids, I quickly learned that their mothers often didn't have fancy dishes that were only used on holidays. They didn't have real silver and lace tablecloths. Their turkey was not brought in, if they had turkey at all, on a big platter. And I realized there are a lot of great ways to have Thanksgiving, and they're not all the same. As you can see in the picture, we've got two very different turkeys here. You may recognize this guy, the kind you draw tracing around your hand, compared to one that's a little fancier. So as I'm reading this story, the differences in these two Thanksgivings will be obvious, but I want you to think about what is the same about them. Abigail Archer's family is perfect in every way. Never is this more obvious than on Thanksgiving Day. She's got a chart here about all these things like 4th of July, or even things like dishwashing or pie eating or bathing. Perfect, 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 but Thanksgiving, ultra perfect. Their turkey is plump and golden. Their napkins are made of lace. Their table is lit with candles. They all hold hands for grace. Our smoke alarm is wailing. Our turkey burnt as toast. Dad spills the gravy down his shirt. A less than perfect host. Abigail Archer's father serves white meat all around. Everyone takes dainty bites and no one makes a sound. Except for saying good things like, oh, excellent, lovely, perfection. My grandpa chews the gizzards. My brother chomps the wings. My sister slurps. My uncle burps. And Aunt Clarissa sings. Abigail Archer's mother wears organdy and pearls. She decorates their homemade pies with fancy whipped cream swirls. My mother's dressed in blue jeans. Her pies came from the store. Her Jell-O mold quivers to the floor. After dinner at Abigail's, after the dishes are done, some of the grown-ups take a walk. Others play chess for fun. Abigail's older cousins read books in velvet chairs. The younger ones bring favorite toys and everybody shares. My cousins chase around the house. They grab each other's collars. They hop atop the furniture and everybody hollers. The overnight guests at Abigail's have rooms all to themselves, with chocolates on the pillows and shampoo on the shelves. Our guests bring their own sleeping bags and canvas camping cots. Some guests sleep in the kitchen beside the cooking pots. Abigail Archer's family will sleep straight through the night. They'll have the pleasantest of dreams by starry window light. My family fumbles in the dark, eats leftovers galore, takes bubble baths at 2 a.m., and many of them snore. It's very different, isn't it? But have you thought yet of what's the same? My family and the Archers are different. This I know. We can't tell peas from green legumes or snails from escargots. But we're alike in one way, the nicest way by far. You've got it on that, right? We're alike in just how loving our different families are. And if they rate not by whipped cream swirls and lace tablecloths, but by love, both of them have an ultra perfect Thanksgiving. And I hope yours is ultra perfect too, however different it may be. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Friends, as we remember and think on the joys and the sorrows in our community, let us spend a few moments of silence together, and then I will close us with a poem by Mary Oliver entitled Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for hundreds of miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you about mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high up in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live.
During the month of November, Share the Plate funds will be shared with Shelter House. Shelter House is best known for their 24/7 domestic violence hotline and the confidential emergency shelter it provides for victims along with their children and pets, who can stay for up to 8 weeks. They receive a myriad of other services while they're there to help them get back on their feet. Please be generous for sharing our plate with Shelter House in November. Thanks.
We gather together in joyful thanksgiving, acclaiming creation whose bounty we share. Both sorrow and gladness we find now in our living. We sing a hymn of praise to the life that we bear. We gather together to join in the journey, confirming the eternal passage to be a true affirmation in joy and tribulation. When bound to human care and hope, then we are free. Everyone loved Aunt Bobby because they had to. She was the oldest of my aunts, almost a second mother to my own mom. She became an elementary school teacher because my grandmother Lillian believed that to be the best of the few career options for women at that time. In fact, she based her agreement to marry my grandfather on his building their home within easy distance of the state's teachers' college in Livingston, Alabama. All 5 of her daughters received their first degrees there. Aunt Bobby was the only one who didn't pursue further learning and settled into a 40-year career working with small children. I have sometimes wondered what kind of teacher she was. She was my eccentric aunt, and the older I got, the more I could see how odd she was. She must have used suitcases for storage because she always packed her belongings for her overnight stays at my grandparents' house in brown paper grocery sacks. And she always intended to take over all the meals, but she didn't really cook. Her meals all came out of cans, the contents of which were warmed in white enameled saucepans. She served food on paper plates and liked to serve old standards like pear salad, which is a canned pear half sitting on a leaf of iceberg lettuce with a dollop of mayonnaise and half a maraschino cherry sitting on top. She ruined banana pudding for me by using artificially flavored everything. The only thing real were the bananas. She was prone to headaches in response to anything that didn't go her way. There was no arguing with her. My mother was good at sweetly talking her out of things, but if she dug her heels in, that was it. She wrote letters at least once a week in a strange kind of child's print. She would write 4 pages, at least front and back. She wrapped up 25 cheap plastic presents in white tissue paper and sent them every December so I could unwrap one each day leading up to Christmas. She always talked to me as if I were 5, which became unbearable long before I reached the age of 10. She fell out with my Aunt Mary over their mother's will and never spoke to her again for the remaining 18 years of her life. I have almost all the remaining photos and memorabilia of her life. No one else wants them. Aunt Bobby is remembered with eye rolls, shakes of the head, and worse. Only a few still living recall her with any fondness. We have no control over what family we are born into and who else is a part of that family. We are stuck with these people, some of them for a very long time. I was fortunate to have loving, competent parents, and while they have been gone for some years, my younger brother and I are still close and in regular, friendly communication. I even have a number of extended family with whom I am friends. But there are also eccentrics, exploiters, alcoholics, and abusers. I was thrown into contact with all of these at some point, and they weren't all as harmless as Aunt Bobby. I have known people who have suffered far worse at the hands of family, and while I won't go into triggering detail in my sermon, I know that some of you who are listening to me have been greatly betrayed and damaged by family who were supposed to love and care for you. I am so sorry that those things happened to you. If you need to talk or find helpful resources, please contact me through the church or via the information in our weekly e-newsletter. I am here for you. My husband Bill brought into my life an extraordinary friend when we were married. Linda and Bill had been close since high school, and she stood with him at our wedding. We called her the best friend, and she and I got along, as they say, like a house on fire. She has joined us for many holidays, and she has come to our aid in times of crisis. She befriended my mother during the last year of her life and helped care for her after her stroke. Linda stayed on and helped sort and clean out Mom's house with both respect and ruthless efficiency. She and I spoke on the phone just the other day and reminded each other as we parted that we are family, closer in many ways than the biological kin we are connected to, and we have been so for over 20 years. I would trust her with my life and those of my children. Who are your family of choice? Who helped raise you? Who helped stand by you during crises? Who can always make you laugh and will weep with you when all seems lost? Who knows you better than anyone and sees the best in you even when you are not behaving as well as you'd like? Who has forgiven you for your failures, and who have you been willing to forgive because the bond was just too strong to be broken? Who gave when they had little left and received what you had to offer? Whom do you trust completely, and whose well-being would you guard with your life? Family of choice is a powerful connection. Church is also a kind of family, but it is both a family of choice and a family you get stuck with. It is a family of choice because we are all here voluntarily. Each of you, when you visited this fellowship for the first time, saw something, felt something, experienced something amazing, something heartwarming, life-altering, and you thought, I want to be part of this congregation, this fellowship, this church family. You found your way into the midst of the group and discovered niches you fit in and met people who felt like family, the best kind of family, the kind of family we would choose if we could, and you settled in. At some point, you each discovered that there are some people in this church family who aren't so exciting to be close to, who rub us the wrong way, who make us uncomfortable, who challenge us, and you realize that to be part of this family of choice, you are stuck with some folk you just as soon not spend so much time with. Now, I'm not talking about tolerating people who are behaving in destructive, abusive, dangerous, and otherwise hurtful ways. Such people are in violation of the congregational covenant, and they must be dealt with by the leadership appropriately, which sometimes means asking them to leave. Dealing with members who are out of covenant is a difficult subject for another sermon, another time. I'm talking about people we just don't mesh with, don't agree with, don't really like. That is always the challenge of the church family. In a Unitarian Universalist fellowship, the theist and non-theist must sit together. The Buddhist and the pagan must break bread. The Taoist and the Christian must march side by side. The Jew and the agnostic must sing from the same hymnal. We believe that difference enriches and enlightens. But to be honest, sometimes difference just annoys and irritates. Let's be frank. Sometimes it's not about belief or practice. Sometimes it's about petty power struggles, such as longtime members versus the recently joined, or older versus younger, or kids programs versus adults, or one committee versus another. Sometimes we just get in each other's way and on each other's nerves. I so love parish ministry, in part because I love knowing and ministering to such a wide variety of people, from the most courageous to the most outlandish to those who have driven me crazy. There was the guy who walked past 50 people during the prelude of a service I was leading to tell me that the kitchen was out of creamer. And that is a true crisis in a UU church. There was the father who brought his trans daughter to the youth group for the first time and needed reassurance for the safety of his beautiful child. There was the old Methodist woman who wanted to reintroduce the poll tax to keep black folk from showing up and voting the way the preachers told them to. She later asked me to officiate at her marriage to the widower from down the street. There was the 95-year-old UU lady who testified for the stewardship campaign about the power of free faith after living half her life with a fundamentalist preacher husband who wouldn't allow her to speak in church. There were the folk who risked their lives and endured bomb threats to host civil rights events in their church building. There was a well-intentioned Sunday greeter who tended to run visitors off with his cold, brusque manner, of which he was totally unaware. There were the children who ran amok every Sunday and the parents who just wanted a break and didn't want to corral them. There was the woman who stopped attending for 6 months after the minister ended the open mic joys and concerns, and she lost her place where she could share life events in the public square. There was a woman who didn't want her dying church to close, in part because she was using the empty classrooms to hoard and store her own stuff. There was the woman who was a sister-in-law to a famous Hollywood actor. There was the woman who kept wearing perfume and singing in the choir, and no one could bring themselves to confront her, which resulted in very sneezy music. There was an amazing congregational president who contracted meningitis and died during her term, and all the folk who stepped forward to help get the congregation through such a tremendous loss. The list is long, my friends. Every congregation I have ever known, both Methodist and Unitarian Universalist, has been filled with a fascinating and varied bunch of people. They have each found their church to be the place they could bring their eccentricities and be welcome. And of course, that includes you and myself. So our fellowship is a kind of family. A family we have chosen and a family we are stuck with. It is important to remember that we not only chose to be part of this interesting, strange group, but that they chose to receive us into the family also. We choose and we are chosen. We are stuck with them and they are stuck with us for a time at least. There is no perfect family, no perfect friend, and no perfect church. Churches attract folk who cannot find welcome anywhere else. This is part of what it means to be a fellowship and to practice our principles. Remember the old Groucho Marx line, "I don't want to belong to a club that would have me as a member"? If our fellowship will accept us as members, it certainly can't be perfect. We are far more like the island of misfit toys from the TV version of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. A big part of the Unitarian Universalist message of good news is that if you feel like a misfit in this world, you are likely to find a welcoming place here. Come and try us out. You may find a strange and wonderful kind of family here. You may find a spiritual home. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be. Sometimes in our lives we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if I have things For no one can feel those of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong. Now be your friend, I'll help you carry on. For it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road, I'll share your load. If you just call me, lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend, I'll help you carry on. For it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you understand. We all need somebody to lean on.
By Allison Ehrman. Without darkness, there cannot be light. Without death, there cannot be life. Without silence, there cannot be music. Without sorrow, there cannot be joy. Let the darkness inspire us to be radiantly alive.
Siblings and kindred, we are family. Family of choice. We've chosen, we have been chosen. And yes, we are wonderfully, messily stuck with each other. Let us go in peace.